What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares to set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right. Welcome back, Nightmare Success listeners. This is where you come from. What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? Hey, if you like the show, it just helps out so much if you can, follow, subscribe, like, comment. It puts the show on steroids. I love it when you guys do that. I got an interesting guest. I always have interesting guests, but I want to give a big shout out to Marcus Montgomery. He said, Brent, hey, you got to check this guy out, Lowell Newsome. He said he's got a great story, and it's, if you look him up on Instagram, he's a celebrity barber, master barber. He's all about service. He's all about making the hair, making the style. But he's got a great, interesting story. And he also will walk us through how difficult it is, even if you are the master barber, to get licensed, to actually be able to do your trade when you get out, because they make it so impossible to get licensed if you're a justice impacted person. We're going to get into all that. But before we do, I want to recognize our show sponsor, Auto Plaza Direct. Who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots, looking for a car, and then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to try to buy the car? It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle of getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They are your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge. The new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them that Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. All right. Welcome in, Lowell Newsome. How are you doing, man?
Brent, I'm doing all right. Thank you for having me.
Well, we didn't give up on this, Lowell, because some reasons, for some way, this technology thing, we couldn't hear each other. So what do? We switched from Riverside FM to Zoom, and we're good. We can hear and see each other.
Might have been the weather, man. It's been rough here in St. Louis.
The weather's been awful. It's been like gloomy, rainy. This is that bad prison weather that brings you back, like those bad prison days, and it's gloomy, rainy. You go outside, walk in the track just to get outside, and it's just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about the nachos too. That's not a bad thing though. Microwave nachos in prison.
Yeah. The days you sit up and eat them days like this, especially the weekend with the football coming.
Oh yeah,
can be a lot of that.
Big stuff on football weekends. This is big time in prison. AFC, NFC championships, playoffs. Yeah, sports. I think was a real escape for people mentally. To feel like you're kind of normal being in. Everybody's kind of tied in. They've got their teams. You feel like you're normal. Somehow that kind of created a feel of being a part of.
Especially back in the day, they used to bring the outside teams in and play guys, so you could sit around and watch some real good.
That is something. What do you mean? Like what? How did they do that, Lowell? What did they do?
Well, they used to have a select team of guys come from like local colleges or whatever, and they would escort them in and play against our like A-League teams on the prison A-League team.
Yeah,
they have a lot of security there, but it'll be a real good game though. They bring some real good guys in there.
It's kind of like the movie The Longest Yard, where the prisoners are playing against the prison guards.
Yeah. A
little different.
So much
kind of the same.
Yeah, the same idea.
So Lowell, let's let everybody get a chance to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about how growing up, siblings, parents. What was little Lowell doing as a kid?
Well, little Lord was the only child. I grew up with three sets of grandparents. Uh, Mother and father weren't. My mother was around. Father wasn't too much. So I kind of just grew up searching for some type of connection because I was the only child. I was always by myself.
Yeah.
And as I got older, it just turned that loneliness turned into a curiosity for the wrong type of crowd. So I ended up running with the wrong type of crowds and those type of guys, getting that false love and
Well,
support.
Lowell,
So
at that time period, let's talk about like how old would you have been when you were thinking I'm gonna run with a crowd that gets and kind of walks on the wild side? Would you have been like a teenager, young teenager, grade school?
yeah, yeah, I was a young teen. I got in trouble my first stolen credit cards, just trying to look like look like the guys from the neighborhood that was, really doing something. I didn't have to. I had my grandparents, they all had decent money, but it was just a curiosity that I had never gotten satisfied or nobody never let me know what the outcome would be if I went the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
That being the only child, you kind of be spoiled. So
Yeah,
they kind of just hampered me. And I just never really understood what it was, even when I got in trouble. Like I went to juvenile for a couple of weeks, so I got out, but I never really got in a lot of trouble with my grandparents. They kind of just pacified me.
they didn't make a
So
big
it
deal
kind of
about it when you got into that juvenile
nah,
deal. And then what were the guys
nah.
in the neighborhood? Was that kind of a badge of honor deal?
That's the bad thing. The more you get in trouble, the more you get, you're looked upon as being one of those kind of guys who kind of fitting in.
Yeah,
Because I didn't have to do the things that I chose to do. Some guys have to. They
right.
come
They
from
don't have a
backgrounds
choice.
and
Yeah,
yeah, some of them don't have a choice. Man, see, those were my guys.
yeah.
So I liked them so much and they liked me so much. I would do things backwards to what I was really, possibly should have been doing to try to fit in with them guys.
So on the other side of the world, what was like school like? What was your school life like?
And the teachers, I was one of the best students. All the parent teachers conference, the teachers like, we wish we had more kids like me. Because I was with growing up with grandparents, you grow up with a different type of respect. I was real respectful, but on the other hand, I still had my slick stuff going. I was sneaky with it
Yeah.
around all the say adults and like even when I was doing the credit card, I would spark conversation with the tellers for them to not question me about whose card this is.
Hmm.
So learned
Yeah.
that power
The
of
art of the sale.
conversation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it was just something I
Well,
picked up.
it's
And it was,
funny that you say that though, Lo, because I didn't think you were going there. I thought you were going to tell me that you would have had all kinds of trouble as a kid in school, and that bad
oh
grades.
no,
You actually were living two different worlds.
good grades, perfect attendance, none of that. No bad rapport with any teachers. I went back to high school some years back. Teachers loved us. I was class clown, like crack jokes,
Yeah.
but I had a counselor tell me once before. She told me that I have a charm in which I lead people,
Uh
but
huh.
I didn't know. She said you get all your work done, and then you'll start your disruption. She said people they can either ignore it or either they join with you. She said you got to be careful with that. Now this is the same person that later came and saw me in federal prison, state and federal prison.
The teacher.
And this lady I never knew. Yeah, my counselor. She was a counselor for my high school. She wanted me to do. She knew what I was
She
capable
believed
of.
in you.
Saw where I was headed, and was trying her best to keep me straight.
I think that's so cool. I've got my youngest daughter that's a teacher, and I get feedback from her, every so often, and these kids that come back and see her, or they talk about that they never understood math until they got into her class, and just the impact that a teacher can make if they really care about these kids is life changing. We don't know what impact a good teacher has until you look back on what those people did. But the fact that she stayed connected to you, Lowell, is incredible. Incredible.
And that's, I love teachers like that, because so many of them just pass people or pass us on.
Yeah.
Just to get us out of the way.
I'm curious. I'm curious too, Lowell. When you were having these good grades and great attendance and showing up to school, did that also mean that you were kind of running with a different group of kids while you were in school, and then you had your street kids that you were when you were out of school, or did it all mix in together?
I made it all mix in together. See, I was able to hang with the bad guys, but I could also do my own thing. I could also do my work and do.
Did they make fun of you at all that you were serious about school? No,
not at all. Not at all. A lot of them I would help get through certain classes.
Yeah.
So I got different points for that, and then I always hung with older guys.
Yeah, you got some respect just helping them out.
Yeah, just hanging with them guys, and they took a liking to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I rolled with that. I ran with that.
So Lowell, lead us into the next step. What happens to you after when do you start getting into things that lead you into prison time?
So when I graduated from high school, up until then, I wasn't really in the streets, but I kind of was dabbling.
Mm-hmm.
So after high school, I went full-fledged into the streets. So I was just hanging out corners, selling drugs all day, every day, not trying to work. But the bad part about that was if my drug operation didn't go well, then I had all my grandparents to fall back on. Like if my money was bad here. So I wasn't really learning, but I had one grandmother. She used to be upset with the head grandfather, which was her father.
Okay.
She didn't like how he pacified me and she kind of wanted me to, bust my butt prior to.
Right.
She wanted me to feel it, but I never felt it. So then it just became a tumbling effect. It got so bad that I was getting in trouble, going to jail every holiday before my birthday. My birthday is in December.
Yeah.
So anywhere from October to December, I was getting locked up. This was going for years. It was like a habit.
Why would that have been that you were getting locked up in October to December?
See, here it's just, for one, when you're in the streets, those are times that different indictments come out.
Okay.
Different times that the police tighten up on their jobs,
But it sounds like, Lowell, that you weren't getting hit very hard.
No, you weren't. You don't. Not, because here's the thing. I could always fall back on, I'm a school kid. I made a mistake.
Yep.
I got so many passes with that.
Yeah.
They kicked me out. You're on probation. I went to every level of probation that you could go to, even till intense. I went to intense probation where you had to come in house with a curfew.
Okay.
This was way before they did the ankle monitors and all of that stuff. So on intense, you had to be in the house at a certain time for the rest of the night until a certain time. And I just got in a habit of wanting to feel like that's how I wanted to live. I didn't have a reason. My grandparents even paid for me. They wanted me to get out of the area so bad. A lot of 4 or 5 of my guys got killed one year, and they rushed me to Alabama. I paid for me to go to Alabama A&M University because those were my close friends, and that was my lifestyle. So you made it through that. Listen, you have to go. My granny begged me, please. So I left, but My granny always taught me that wherever you go, you take what's in you with you.
Mm-hmm.
That in me hadn't got out of me.
Right.
So I took that behavior to Alabama. Same thing. Went there. I didn't go to prison there, but I had some cases pending.
Mm-hmm.
Came back to St. Louis. Of course, got locked up. Those cases came about. And long story short, they ended up banning me from the state because they didn't want to do the extradition.
Oh wow,
process.
They banned you from Alabama?
Yeah, they banned me from Alabama.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what it, man, Brett, and I can honestly tell you what it was I didn't have a male figure close to me to really be in tune with me. I had grandparents.
Right.
I had three sets of grandfathers.
Right.
But their age gap is, they can't
couldn't relate.
sit down and they can give me a different level of wisdom and understanding. But that's what's a seed. It's planted. It's not right at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
My father wasn't close to me. My uncle wasn't. He didn't teach me anything. He kind of just let me learn by trial and error.
Right.
But I was so adamant at trying to be something that I wasn't. I wouldn't give up. I kept going so many times until I had a probation officer, and he told me my last day of my probation for the state. He said, "Mr. Newsom, you real slick and charismatic and all of that." He said, "But what you don't know is people talk about you. You doing this and that, but you come in here and you speak well and you look like this." He said, "One day," said, the marshals, you're gonna catch yourself a 20-year sentence." He said, "Because you won't stop and you think that what you're doing, that you can do it so smoothly." Mm-hmm. Because I didn't give my POs no trouble. Any court dates I ever had, I ain't never skipped
a bail. Did everything you're supposed to do
all the time. Mm-hmm. But they saw, like, they sense it. You think you slick older people. You're a good kid, but you about to mess it up. Man, and Brent, when I tell you, I don't know how many years, well, about 18 months after that, the marshals were at my door. Yeah.
So what happens?
And that started.
How does it happen? What happens?
Well, I had a sealed indictment from some drug sales that I had made. Mm-hmm. So the marshals was actually looking for me, but they didn't know where I was actually and what I was in. Mm-hmm. So I just so happened I had moved to living in Brooklyn, Illinois. I had a rental car. I had a lady get me a rental car because my car they had just repoed my truck. So the police, when they repoed my truck, I asked them, I said, "Do I have any warrants or anything?" And so, "No, you don't have none. They showed me the warrant for my truck." Mm-hmm. Put it on the tow truck, took it. So I end up getting the rental car. One morning, I'm laying in the bed. My phone rang. And as my phone rang, I heard some beating on the front door. So I answered the phone. "Hello?" And this is a lady who I rented the car, her name. So she's like, "What you did in the car?" I said, "No, I ain't did nothing." She said, "The marshals are at the rental place and they looking for you and they looking for the car." So now at this time, I heard the voices from the front door. They saying, "It's U.S. Marshals. They didn't know. We want the driver of the truck." They didn't know that that's where I was living. "We want the driver of the truck. Newsom come out, da, 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 da." They didn't know nobody was in the house. So I'm laying and crawling around and I could see the images, whatever. So as I'm sitting there, I'm trying to be cool and I'm thinking, okay, well, I sat there for a minute. I said, well, maybe they're gone. And a couple of days prior to, I missed the lock up on the door. But anyway, I moved the door about a hair. Boy, and I tell you, Brent, that was it. They came in.
That was it.
Tore my house up. Took me off. Yeah. Took me off. Now going through this federal process, St. Clair County Jail.
And they don't play around on the federal side.
No. They respect you different because I guess they figure you got a lot of time to deal with. But I mean, just in St. Clair County, period, that's just a rough spot.
Yeah. How long were you? How long did you go through that until you got sentenced, Lowell?
It was about 9 months.
Yeah.
Because I had a partner that had went through the federal system before, and he was like, "Man, Lowell, hop out. Don't even play with these people. So don't be. It's not like the state where you sit around and they can lower your sentence or whatever." He said, "Man, I ain't gonna do that. Make sense. Get up out of here."
So what'd you get?
Yeah.
What did
I
they
got 10 years.
How 10 years?
120 months.
120 months.
120 months. 120 months.
And
when I found out, when I read your paperwork, when they added up all the grams, Brent, I might have had maybe 7 grams that was sold to an undercover. Wasn't nothing huge at all.
Right.
I made a few sales to an undercover.
Yeah.
And they added that all up.
So 120 months. Where did you go?
I went to Pekin, Illinois.
Yep.
Yeah, but the crazy part was when I'm in Illinois already. I was since in Illinois. But they had to put me on an airlift just to go to Pekin. And when I tell you,
so you had to go through Oklahoma? I
had to go through Oklahoma. Then I went and flew to Michigan. I did a world tour just to go back to went to Michigan.
And Lowell, I've interviewed so many different people. There is absolutely nothing good about traveling as a prisoner. I mean, there is no upside whatsoever.
Hey, if they knew that you shackled,
yes,
hands and feet,
yeah, and
it don't matter what number of the bathroom you got to do, they not taking them shackles off. You can got to do 1, 2, or 3. You're gonna be shackled until the duration of the flight. But that wasn't.
And I think the other thing is that the shackling is such a mental degradation. Yes. I mean, you feel like an animal when they
yes.
when you've got it to your ankles, to your waist,
yes.
and hands to your waist. It feels you feel about as low as you can feel about how you're being transported.
When you see and a person sees Oklahoma City and understand what Oklahoma City is, that it's a prison that's built.
Well, explain a little bit, Lowell. Explain a little bit. Walk somebody through that.
Okay. Oklahoma City is where it's a transfer center where it's thousands of inmates just waiting to be transferred all over the country. And
it's right there at the Oklahoma airport.
Right. It's broken. Even they have an airlift the airlifts in Oklahoma is different, but like people will never see Oklahoma. They will never see that place, even though no matter how close it is to the airport.
Right.
You will never see an airlift. You will never see the inmates. You will never see the transactions at all. I always tell people to keep in mind of like a Con Air, but without all the extras on the plane. The security perimeter around the airport, that's serious. Those trucks, yes, that's serious. But Oklahoma is just imagine you getting off a plane, you going in a terminal, and when you go through the terminal, that's the prison. Your feet never touch the ground, as they say. So when you walk, everybody's shackled, and you walk up to what it looks like is a roadblock of U.S. Marshals. It might be a hall. It might be 10 of them, and they all got little wooden boxes in front of them. So the wooden boxes are for you to put each foot up so they can unhook your shackles at your ankles, and then they unhook the shackles at your wrist. And then you proceed to these different, what would I call them? Like storage rooms, big, huge storage rooms where herds of people go in to go to different sections of this process before you can go upstairs. You have to do a medical check. They
It's
have
like a
to check.
warehouse of people that they're processing.
Just like a warehouse of animals.
Yeah.
That's what
Like
it look like.
cattle.
And you go from cattle, and you go from one room to the next, from one room to the next. But here's the thing: if it's 200 people that just got off the plane, no one can move from the room until each 200 person is in there. They don't let you go to keep the room empty. No, they let the room pile up, might let you sit there a while, and then they'll process this. Now, this is before you go upstairs to go to use the phone or go to sleep or whatever.
Right.
And that's
some people
hours.
can be there for a few hours, and some people are there for months.
That for months, just depending on where you're going, and depends because they take you places according to numbers. You have to have a certain amount of people going to this institution for you to go. You just can't, and that's just gonna take one person. It's got, I don't know the triggering number, but it has to be more than one person. Yeah, you can sit there for some months.
So, Lo, how long did it take you to get to where you're supposed to go to Pekin?
So it didn't take me long for Pekin. I think I was there I went through Oklahoma one night, and we was out the next morning. And when I got to Pekin, I knew a few people already. And federal institutions they're kind of misguide you because they look nice. You pull up, you always got the trees out front.
Pekin was kind of new too, wasn't it?
Pekin and Greenville, they both are identical.
Yeah.
They look just the same.
Yeah.
So it looks real nice, but it's a different lifestyle on the other side of those gates and fences.
So as far as your mindset going in, Lowell, you've got 120 months. You finally get to where you're going to be. What are you thinking? What's going through your mind?
I still haven't grabbed it yet. Mm-hmm. Because I was so used to just doing the short state bits and going home.
Yep.
And here then again, like I said, by this time, all of my grandparents had kind of passed away. Most of the ones who wanted to
looked after you,
see me grow up and not get out of trouble. Yeah. Most of them had passed away, and I still had a few. My main grandmother and I had a few. So it was hard adjusting to just. And I remember when I got locked up, the Y2K era was going on, and I remember I called my granny. I said, "Mom, I ain't gonna never see y'all no more. Y2K gonna wipe out all the computers and everybody gonna be dead." She said, "Oh boy, shut up." He said, "Oh boy, shut up."
It's funny you bring that up, though. That was a big deal at the time.
Oh, I was terrified.
Everybody was worried about it.
I didn't think I was going
to turn to the 21st century. Everything was going to crash.
And so, from state to Oklahoma City to see, I've never been around that many different nationalities and people. Mm-hmm. I never thought other nationalities got in trouble like me. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wow.
Everybody's here.
Yeah, I'm in some big stuff. But then I see people that they treat a certain way, like people with the black boxes. Mm-hmm. And I watch everything. I'm a people watch. I watch everything. So I'm like, hey, what's going on with him? Mm-hmm. And you later find out. But Pekin it wasn't bad as a couple of spots I went to, because it was real mellow. I knew a lot of guys there, and I programmed a lot. That's the only thing that really kept me from getting in a lot of trouble, mm-hmm. and keeping me sane, because them places.
Oh yeah, the boredom of just knowing that you have time, and then how do you eat that time? Because everybody does it differently. Yeah. So I'm curious, Lo, did you get into cutting hair and being trained to cut hair and all that at Pekin, or did that come later?
They came later, because Pekin didn't offer the program.
Okay.
But back when I was in a system, they had what they call educational transfers.
Okay.
So if one institution didn't offer a program that you wanted to take, and you had 18 months clear conduct, they will put in for you to transfer. So I had been in Pekin for a little over 18 months, about almost 2 years.
Okay.
But Pekin was full of all my homeboys, and they was gang banging. So I'm like, man, I don't want to get caught in this. I've already got a lot of time, man. I ain't built for this. I want to go, and I wanted to keep programming. Where I was in Pekin, they had just basic educational programs. They had teachers from the community college to come in and teach algebra, math, different stuff
that's
like
great.
that.
A lot of places don't have that.
Yeah, but I don't think they do it anymore. I think all that outside contracting, they stopped doing that. In the federal, they stopped that. But I put in, and I asked my counselor if I could go or whatever, and he came back to me. He asked me again. He said, "Do you still want to go? They have a spot for open." So I ran to the phone and I called my grandmother and I asked her. I said, "Mama, can I go to Pennsylvania?" I said, "It's like 1,000 miles, 14, 15 hours away." And my grandmother was like, "Wherever you go, I'm gonna come see you." Oh. So, I ain't called my mom. I called my granny. Yeah. My granny was my head honcho. So, yeah, to everything in life. So when I called her and she gave me the green light, go, I put in and I went. Yeah, and I went. And I didn't initially get in the Barber program because it was so full, but they had several other programs. They had building trades, culinary arts, barbering, and they had hydroponics. Okay, so of course I go in, I'm still criminally minded. I'm around all these federal guys, so now I gotta up my federal activities. So I got it. I'm gonna learn how to grow weed, bro. Take the hydroponics class and
figure it out.
Back then, I just ain't let it go yet. And see, these are the first years of prison, so you still trying to figure it out. I ain't let go of the streets yet. I'm still trying to make this transition. So I think I want to be this when I get out. So I'm taking this hydroponics class, trying to figure out how to grow weed. And the guy was teaching me, back then they didn't have the grow boxes and all this fancy stuff they got now. He said, "Man, yeah, so in order to make this work, you're going to have to catch the power before it goes to the meter box." Yeah, black people don't mess with electricity, right? So
electricity can kill you.
I said, "What you mean?" He said, "No, before the electricity go to the power, you have to find the cord, tap into it." That's how they was done when they was doing the growing illegally then. Yeah. I said, "You know what? It counts." I said, "Nah, I'm cool. I don't want to do that." That killed my excitement. So I tried I was getting some magazines. I wanted to try to be a computer hacker. I got a few magazines in through this company called Loomphonics or whatever. Yeah. And it was illegal magazines, but however, I got them. I just kept trying to get them. So anyway, one day I didn't get an order of books. I went to the warden. I said, he was in chow hall. I said, "Warden, I ordered some books and they keep not allowing me to get them." Pulled out a little pad, wrote. So, "What's your name?" Gave my name, my number. He said, "Oh yeah, those books you've been ordering, those are against da 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 da." He said, "Matter of fact, if you try to order some more, basically let me know."
That'll be the end of that, yeah.
I said, "Okay, so I had to find something else." And by that time, the barbering school came open, and I got in the program.
So, and I think for those who are listening, that is something that is important in the prison world. It's kind of hard to explain because obviously when you're on the outside, you just go get your hair cut or, women get their hair done, whatever. Yeah. When you're in prison, that's one of those things that it's almost like a luxury privilege to be able to get your hair cut. And if you got somebody that does a good job, it's almost like you've beat the system, that you're actually getting your hair cut in prison and you're looking good. It's hard to to kind of put that into an analogy of whatever that is, but it's a big deal for people who actually are at the barbers in prison. They walk with a certain respect with the prison population, I think.
A barber in prison is one of the best positions to be in
Mm-hmm.
if you have to go in prison, especially federal prison. If you're a barber in federal prison, you're okay. They don't have the barber schools no more. The
Right.
9/11 canceled all the schools,
Yeah.
so you won't get that education no more. But some people will still be able to get that practice. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's if you can get in the shop. Sometimes I know me and my crew, we ran the shop in Pennsylvania. We ran it for. I was up there 8 years. We ran the shop for at least 3 or 4 years after 9/11 because we had built a team through the course of the
Mm-hmm.
program.
And then, I mean, like how many, as far as on a regular day, like how many people would you see to cut hair?
Oh my goodness, you'll have maybe 100,
That's a lot.
100 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because where we were where I was in Pekin, the barbershop was in the rec area.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and it was no, this was up in
Pennsylvania.
McKean.
Okay.
This is up in McKean.
Yeah.
The rec was in the barbershop was in the rec area. So even when guys went to rec, the barbershop was a hangout. But they come and do their tickets, they come and just all the information come through the barbershop.
Sure.
Whatever go on the yard, every barber
happened at
knows.
the barbershop. Mm-hmm.
You have to know. And I came in as an underdog under my other barber bros because I had guys from Cleveland, Ohio, New York, Detroit,
mm-hmm.
and these guys were all familiar with the trade, but I wasn't. And over the course of time, I ended up being the top barber.
Mm-hmm. It's a good gig. It's a good hustle in prison.
I loved it. I love the fact that I can make. If you could please a guy in prison and you making cool, without no funny shit.
Uh-huh.
A haircut. When I saw what I did to those guys with haircuts, two things changed my perception of the barbering and in prison. One, I was still rebellious against order and this lifestyle because this was in the first 3 years of my incarceration. So I still got this bitterness. Mm-hmm. So me and the instructor we would go at it. She's an older Judge Judy, sharp at the tongue, no nonsense, yes, keep you in line. Mm-hmm. And I'm still trying to fight back and be rebellious. And she said, okay, took me to what we call the principal's office, was the head education. Education run the barbershop. So education, Miss Newsom, we got a line of people that want to be in the barbershop. You got one more time to cut up. You out of there. So, okay, let me calm down. Then my guys around me, it's like, man, look, you need this. Calm down. Okay. Second thing, I was cutting a guy's hair. This is after I've been cutting for a little while, and I picked up a lot of tips from the other guys and tricks, and I'm doing my own thing. I got my own name going. So one of the guys, I cut older guy hair, and he's doing prison. I think he might have been down 20 years or whatever. After I cut his hair, he said, "Young blood, you don't have no reason to come back no more." He said, "Well, what you just did, and a little bit of stamps, we might only been charged on a strip of stamps or a book of stamps at the most." He said, "You did all that for that." He said, "Man, you ain't got no reason to ever come back." And I took that to heart.
And for those, we're talking about stamps, that's how everybody gets paid in prison when they're doing their hustle. So stamps go a long ways. It's because you don't have money. So stamps is your currency.
Yep, your currency or your food, your macros or your tunas or whatever. But yeah, it's and
the guys that cut hair had a lot of stamps.
A lot of stamps. Oh, a lot of food.
A lot of food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't have a car home no more.
I,
Yeah.
Lowell, I remember I got my hair cut by Bob and at Leavenworth, and what I worked over at the Leavenworth golf course. And so
Mm-hmm.
the way we got paid was is that $10 a day they would order our lunch over at the bowling alley. So they made these really good cheeseburgers. So Bob, you know, whenever he cut my hair, that's how he got paid. He wanted the double cheeseburger with everything on it, and I would smuggle that back in there so I'd get paid.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I had a laundry guy. I cut his hair so many times a month. He did my laundry every
Sure.
week. So it's
Yeah.
the best bargaining position you can be in. Yeah,
So
it's
low
the
when you
best.
get, so you're going along here and now you're trained. I mean, the guys are liking what you're doing. You basically got yourself a good job in prison, which is a big deal because it eats up your time. As you start getting close to the door, thinking about, you know, I don't know how many years it's been at this point. Are you thinking, okay, I've got something when I get out, this is what I'm going to do? Or were you thinking this was just a pass by and whatever you're going to do when you get out, it's not going to have anything to do with cutting hair?
Okay, so at this point in time, Brent, I done ran out of I done exhausted all my other bullshit remedies pretty much. So this is what I have.
This is what it
all
was.
I have.
Okay.
Because everywhere I go, I make people love what I'm doing.
And you're getting feedback from that. It makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good because those guys are the, you know, they.
Yeah, you don't want to give a bad haircut in prison to a bad guy.
It's rough. It's rough to make them like you like that. You know, like I was cutting cities.
Yeah.
Like I had Pittsburgh guys. When anybody came in from Pittsburgh, I was the Pittsburgh barber.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't from Pittsburgh.
Right.
So, and then I had a lot of Detroit. I mean, and these guys is coming in new every week.
Yeah.
Every week. So I had got accustomed to every type of hairstyle. That's the advantage that barber school gave me.
Yeah, because it was all
I got accustomed to cutting every type of hairstyle. And even back when my instructor was there, she wouldn't allow us just to cut what she called, you can't just cut your homeboys hair. She made us practice the shear work
on everybody,
which I thank her for, because it's a lot of people that's comfortable in just whatever lane that they're in. Mm-hmm. If they only cut African American hair, they stick to. Some crossover. Mm-hmm. The ones that cross over and are diverse, they see a different level of money.
Sure.
I didn't understand it when she was teaching me. I thought she was just being a butthole and just want to make me do something I didn't want to do.
Right.
Hey, making it hard. But when I thank her to this day for that, because when I came home, I was in the halfway house, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm stuck on cutting hair. The halfway house didn't want to allow me to cut hair. It was a barbershop up the street. It was a barber school. Mm. So they wouldn't let me cut hair. So I talked to the instructors. The instructors saw the hours that I had accumulated in prison. So they gave me a semi-instructor's position.
Okay.
So with that instructor's position, I'll bag up just a little bit. When I was released from prison, the federal prison gave me a certificate from the Department of Labor. It's a barber certificate.
You were a barber of trade.
Yes, but that only exists
in the BOP.
Prison, in the BOP. So when I came home, I showed that no school. I had 5,000 hours.
Yeah, they weren't interested.
5,000 and our instructor was, before 9/11, the hours that I accumulated, 5,000. But being that she was an instructor for that region, we couldn't get those hours because we weren't residents of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. So those hours never went to any state board. They just
stayed
with
her
documentation within the BOP. And then when they let her go, we couldn't make any arrangements for a state board exam or anything. So those was just 5,000 hours
Just
Of course, I had the experience.
lost in the deal, but you've created all this hours of experience of cutting hair.
Yeah, yeah, it was lost towards all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, they sent us out with that, and when, like I said, the schools nobody accepted it. So when I went to do this uh, barbering instructor with this schooling, they were gonna put me in a position where I could get the hours to take the state board. And this was in Tennessee at the time. When I was released, I went to Chattanooga, Tennessee. My mom was living in Georgia. She wanted me to come closer, be closer to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chattanooga was nice. Didn't want me to get back to my familiar grounds. Okay, so going to this barber school, getting my hours, whatever. Man, Brent, I go one day and I got to catch the bus from the halfway house. And at the halfway house, whenever you go from A to B, when you get to B, you have to call and let them know I'm here, such and such.
Yep.
Brent, one day I went and the parking lot was a little more crowded than normal. So looking around and I go in the building, I walk into a raid. The barber instructor, the guy that owned it, had been using some of those guys, some of the students' social security number and doing some type of loan.
Oh, man.
I had no clue of nothing. So I walk in from the halfway house into a raid.
Which freaks you out because you don't want to be around anything at all when you're in the halfway house that has anything to do with the legal world.
You can't be. The first thing my stomach hit the ground. I'm like, oh, I'm about to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So the marshal's asking me who I am and this, that, and the other. I tell him, I say, listen, man, please, I have to call the halfway house. Please call and tell them I don't have anything to do with anything and let them know I'm here. So, of course, they said, okay, you go through that process and then when it's done, get back. So when I come back, that job terminated, of course, because the whole operation.
The whole thing's gone, right?
So that whole thing went away. So anyway, I had to get I got another job doing something somewhere. And until I got out when I was released from the halfway house, then I went to supervised release.
Right.
Go through the same trouble with my supervised release officer. She got a conflict about me working in barbershops. She don't think it's a good fit. You should get a better job.
Okay, so Lo, is she saying that because she thinks that bad things happen at a barbershop because of all the talk? Is that what you're saying? Even though that's a job trade of yours, she doesn't think it's good just because she thinks people talk shop in there. Okay.
Think it's going to trigger some bad behavior in me or whatever. And this is before I started. Yeah, I got to look. She has a reason later on, but not initially. So I end up getting a job. I convince her. I get a job. I'm in Dalton, Georgia. My pro ops, I think, out of Rome, Georgia. And I get introduced to this new exotic weed, and that's my weakness. So we go
triggers you back into it.
Triggers me back. I'm smoking. I'm giving dirty urines.
Yep.
No trouble, but she's highly furious about the dirty urine.
I'm sure.
For one, because she can't get a good revocation because I was sentenced out of Illinois, but I'm here now in Tennessee. So the judge in Illinois wasn't really honoring none of the revocation she was requiring. So I go through this process. We go back and forth, dirty urines. Then 1 minute she tell me, okay, you got to stop cutting in the barbershop. Now I have put in for my barber's license in Georgia to start a what they call apprenticeship program up under a barber I'm working in.
Okay.
So I submitted the application to the Barber State Board, and I'm just waiting on a response. So now in the process of that, I come up with another dirty. She said, look, you can't work at the barbershop. I'm putting you in for to revoke your parole, and I want to try to get you sent back, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty much grounded. So I get paperwork back about my appeal, and I ask her, Miss Shields, can I go and do this? I mean, I know you don't like me barbering, but this is a good
Big
thing,
deal.
my job. Yeah. She said, no, you can't go nowhere. Mm-hmm. And, you can't go out a 50-mile radius. Mm-hmm. So I had to go from Chattanooga to Macon, Georgia. It's out of 50 miles. So I'd already had a hearing coming up, and I decided, I said, well, I'm going to go either way. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose the
either way, right. Might as well try to
get
the license. Yeah.
I might as well, I'm going to try. So I end up going down, having a hearing, 4 different guys from the Atlanta Barber State Board kind of questioned my background and questioned the reason. But first they denied my application, and this was an appeal process. Okay. So I appealed it, and when they wanted to talk to me face to face, I had to have like maybe 4 or 5
which isn't, I mean, reference. And Lowell, the reason I wanted you to tell this story, none of what you're saying is uncommon. When somebody has a felony record and they try to get licensed with the state, it's almost impossible. You don't just go through. You have to take 3 or 4 steps and prove your case of who I am, why I need this license. And I don't think a lot of people know that, like something like being a barber, you were totally, absolutely qualified to be a barber. But to get a license from the state, that felony record, it doesn't stop when you get out of prison. It's a lifetime thing. So you have to fight your way to get something that you already are qualified to do. So anyway, I just don't want to interrupt you there, but that's something that people say, well, why does everybody have such a hard time getting back into, getting out of prison? Well, that's one thing. Like, you are actually qualified to do this job. You got to have a license for it.
It's their process of deterring you back to your old ways. They don't make money if you don't go back. Right. So if they don't get people to go back, you don't make any money. They won't make no more money off me. I told them when I left you, all what you made off me, that was it. So with that, I just threw all my cards on the table. I said, well, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see what happened, and I'm gonna let them determine my fate with it. So I was able to talk to them. They wanted to make sure that I wasn't the person who they were reading off paper.
Sure.
They were reading something from a person years ago, not the person that was sitting in front of them, right. But they wanted to hear it from me.
Right.
So after the process, it may have been an hour or so, whatever, they let me know, okay, we'll notify you by mail. They didn't give me any idea of which way that they could possibly go with it. Mm-hmm. So now I have to deal with my hearing. I go for my hearing. The judge ends up sentencing me to just a flat year. So with a flat year, I have to do the whole 365. Mm. If he would have sentenced me to year and a day, then I would have had to do
something like that.
Months. Yeah, and then I could have been supervised release for the rest or whatever. But he told me, he said, Mr. Newsom, you've been just smoking weed, I ain't getting in any troubles or whatever. He said, so after you do this year, you're done. Okay. So now that's a hard pill to swallow, because now I have to go back into the system to do a year. And the thing is, when I just got matter of fact, I was in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta USP. Yes, sir. Yes. That's the best news that I got in a place like that. Man, my fault, Brett. That place is rough. When I pulled up to that place, when I saw that wall, I had to ask the guard. I said, "Man, you sure my paperwork right?
Am I at the right place?" You probably get said a lot.
If you ain't never seen a 40-foot wall. Oh my God, that was the most. That was scary. That was scary, and plus when you're in transit, you're not in main pop, but you're in population transit, and it was so packed that we was in a back hallway. Anyway, the best news I could have got, called my girlfriend. She said, you got a letter from the Atlanta State Board. She opened it. They approved it. Granted me my apprenticeship.
So it was worth it.
It was only worth it for a short period of time because now I had to go through the year.
Yeah.
So now when I get out, I went out to find out that the shop that I was working before I went, they held my spot. Well, this barber license was expired.
Oh, no.
So again, my license, my road to that,
yeah,
another obstacle. It was like, I like, man, I wanted to give up.
Yeah.
I end up, I think me and the lady, I was still cutting just to make it. Me and the lady end up separating. So I end up moving back to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
We moved back to St. Louis. I was just cutting. I kind of lost a little feel for it. Went through construction program class. Some guy told me about a barber college in St. Louis, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go try.
Mm-hmm.
End up signing up. I was taking care of my aunt at the time. That's a long little story with that, but I was able to go full time, finally complete my barber program, and I was able to get licensed in 2015. That was my first time that was my license. I made it. I finally got licensed. I didn't want to go that far and not go the whole way, because a lot of guys that I was going to school with, they would go to school, and at the end, if they would miss the state board, they wouldn't take the state board. Right. So they would have all this knowledge, but they wouldn't go and get the certificate.
Take the final step.
And even they wouldn't take the final step. Even when I completed it, I missed the state board test because I wanted to get it out of the way right away. I missed the state board test by one day here in St. Louis. So I had to drive. I signed up for Jeff City. Mm-hmm. I had to drive 2 hours to Jeff City because I wanted to take the test. I wanted to get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. I had passed the practical. I got a nice score on the practical. So now I'm going to do the mock. Man, Brent, I went to do the mock job, the haircut, and I'm the only one in there. Everybody in the previous years talk about how nervous you are because the instructors don't have anything else to do but watch you.
Right, they're just watching, right?
So if you do anything wrong, it's thorough on sanitation and this, that, and the other. I came out on top. I made it, and that made it worth it. That made it worth it. Even with the hurdle of taking care of my aunt in the process, she passed before I made it to that final step, but it was her spirit that pushed me the rest of the way.
Along. Yeah.
Kept me along. And from that, I consider myself one of the most passionate barbers that you will ever meet, because I come from a place out of the pits.
Yeah.
That I made light of.
Yeah.
And I swear, and with coming from a place like that, with that confidence, mm-hmm. right after COVID, I moved to Miami, me and my son. I don't have any family now.
Right.
I don't know nobody. Mm-hmm. I went down there and visited one time. And I can already cut everything.
Right.
And I told myself, if you can go to prison and survive them 10 years, 11 years, with the worst people that the country considers the worst people in the world, you cool with them, I can move anywhere. Uh-huh. I can move anywhere. My spirit carries me anywhere. And the trade, the ability to service
anywhere.
I came across many people. Anywhere. I can go to anywhere, any country. If I don't even have to really speak the language, I know just enough from what people and places I've been, I can identify with just a little bit. But it's the confidence that comes from that type of bad place.
Well, I think it's a couple of different things though, Lo, because as you're telling your story, each and every time you got blocked down, you got knocked down, got knocked to the side. They even sent you back a year, but you didn't quit. You know, each and every time whether you were in the halfway house and the place gets raided, or whether you go back to Atlanta and the guy doesn't have his barber's life, all those things you could have made a complete U-turn and said you were a victim and rolled up in a fetal position, but you actually kept with it. And now you're at a point where you're creating your own world, your own business, and it's a success story. And that's what I love about stories like this, is that nightmare success isn't easy. Success in getting out and reentry and trying to make your way has a lot of different things that knock you sideways and knock you down. And you have to have whatever that is, Lowell, that you have in your DNA, whatever that grit is, to say, no, I'm not, they're not getting me. I'm not quitting. I'm getting this. And that's, I think, the truth and the authenticity of your story is, man, it's not pretty. What you had to go through and what you did, man, it wasn't easy, wasn't pretty, got ugly, but you walked out of it. I think that's cool. Yeah. If you go ahead, Lo.
Just I guess it's say your upbringing, or like you say, my DNA is just, I didn't want to settle for. Man, I saw stuff in there, Brett. I didn't want to live like that. I don't want to die.
You made a choice. So,
I pushed myself to the. It's no option.
Right.
When some people, because by human nature, we go back to what we feel most comfortable doing.
Absolutely. It's your comfort zone.
It's a comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And so many times it was so easy to try to go back to do something negative in these little grace periods of time when I wasn't doing so well.
Right.
But my grandmother told me one thing years ago that still sticks with me today, even when I was going through all of those hurdles and trying my best to be this hell of a street criminal.
Yeah.
My grandmama said, she said, I pray for you too hard. She said, I pray too hard for you to do good. So you'll never be good at doing that. Mm. And after a while, after a few bumps and bruises, you feel like, okay, well, maybe I need to try something out.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to allow anyone, because I fell in love with the art of barber.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic.
And you're good at it, and you get great feedback from it, which also gives you confidence to keep doing what you're doing, because it's your thing. The other thing I didn't want to skirt over, Lowell, is you mentioned that your son and your son went down to Miami. So you're close to your son? Are you guys together, part of your world?
Yeah. I have full custody of him.
That's awesome.
We went down there when I was 5, and we go together. We roll everywhere together.
That's great.
He been with me through my ups and my downs, and that's my motivation right there.
I love that.
Yeah, he keep me going. Yeah, his voice is all I need for validation.
Yeah,
that's out of anything in the world, is his voice and his facial expression checks my validation box.
I like
that. As long
that.
as I keep them together, and it's tough. It's not anything easy,
no.
And sometimes I get caught up in. Like I said, I grew up with grandparents, so I was able to get. My coworker hit the light. Hold on. So I was able to. I was able to get groomed from different angles, and sometimes when I be talking to him, I have to talk from father, grandfather, uncle. I had to switch from so many different. Leave it out for me. So I have to switch different characters in raising them, and then the times have changed from now. It's like I don't want him to ever experience anything I went through.
That's right. Yeah.
And I didn't have to go through what I went through, but it was just that curiosity.
Right.
It's that curiosity that thing can grow out of character if you allow it.
Right.
And so many different distractions of today put these different curiosities
Mm-hmm.
in kids' heads, and I try my best to stay on top of them and show them a different way of life. I didn't come up in a bad house with alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
abuse, anything.
You just had the
My
curiosity
grandparents
of
were
the street.
Christian.
Yep.
It was just that curiosity of the streets, what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
It's the respect that these guys get and how people treat them. And
Yep.
but that's a different world that don't have to be for everybody.
Exactly.
That's not a world that everybody have to be in, no matter how good it look,
Mm-hmm.
how glorifying it look. It's the stories like how you let people know it's a darker side to that.
Sure. Yep.
To those prison bus rides, shackling next to these smelly guys. It's 100
Nothing
of us, and
glorious
we
about
all
that.
nothing at all. You're not getting toothpaste on a regular. You're not getting Dove soap and lotion. But we made that mental choice to not make that a part of our life. That recidivism is not. I'm not in those numbers.
Yeah,
I'm not in those numbers.
That's a big deal, Lowell. I want to ask you, because you've walked through so many different paths. Where you are today, what do you think's your biggest takeaway from all of it to tell the listeners out there?
To believe in yourself.
I like that.
If I was able to make it, and I tell people I had a strong support system. My grandmother, she was a soldier. She made it throughout all of my prison stints. Yeah. And she passed away in 2011. But all she instilled in me made me to who I am. So hopefully, if the people have a strong support system, stick as close to them as you can. Everything else is artificial. It's a distraction. Your support system, who stuck with you through however much time you did, whoever it is, wherever they at, however much time they have to go through, whoever is there supporting you unconditionally, hold on to them. That will give you a confidence. If they pass away, you have built a confidence in yourself to be better than what we were. It's self-esteem. When I came home from prison, I noticed you hear how low self-esteem is in prison, and through mostly guys, we hear all the women, so we want to prey on the women. Men is out here with low self-esteem just as well.
Right.
You have a low self-esteem as a man if you don't put yourself in a position to do what manly things are. Shake the thought of you're not this person just because you're going through this situation, or you just come out of that situation.
Right.
Okay, that's that chapter. You can't allow yourself to be defined or contained to being that person. So with that, you have to develop a strong confidence and love for yourself. Because without that, anybody can tell you anything. They can drag you around mentally in any direction that they want to.
Yep.
As the old saying go, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Yep. I love that saying.
And to stand for something, you have to have solid confidence in whatever you're standing on.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you're standing on. So if a person want to make a drastic change, you have to buckle down.
Buckle down and grit it through. I love it, Lowell. That's a great takeaway, and especially after everything that you've been through. It comes from the heart. You've walked the walk. So, Lowell, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way to go?
My Instagram is master_barber_low. I'm on Facebook. My name Lowell Newsom, and cutting hair at Fresh Cuts in St. Charles on First Capitol.
Check out my man. You can check out his work on Instagram and Facebook. See what he's up to. He's doing good work. And if people want to get a hold of me, It's at BrentCassidy.com. It's with a T, not a D. We spell it wrong. And if you're trying to get to a book out there, you need to read something, go get my book. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Nightmare Success. And if you got time, leave me a review on Apple. Those are the best. They just pump up the show. Loving the likes and the comments and subscribing and following. It's always great. As I used to say when I was writing my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Lowell Newsome, I appreciate you, man.
Yes,
great
sir.
story.
Yes, sir. Man, Brett, appreciate you, man. Keep it going.
All right, man. Nightmare Success, in and out.